You typically buy debt investors out of a deal, whereas equity investors are in it for the long run with you.
One question I've always been wondering, and I hear you and others talk about, you're doing an equity raise or a debt raise. Maybe might not even be phrasing it right. What are the differences that you're referring to?
Equity investors participate in the upside on the deal. Debt investors are capped out at a certain percent. It's basically it. You typically buy debt investors out of a deal, whereas equity investors are in it for the long run with you. There are pros and cons. And by the way, I didn't even know what this was after my first deal. I still didn't. Someone asked me, "Are your investors debt or equity investors?" I was like, "I don't know what you mean by that." So
Clearly you can do a syndication without it.
Right. But hopefully you're watching this video and learning prior to doing your syndication. That's one of the reasons why we do these videos, to help others prior to doing the syndications. That way they don't make the same mistakes I did starting out. As far as all of our deals are with equity investors.
Okay.
Now, we could make much more money as general partners, syndicators, if we only had debt investors. The reason why is because we give them a fixed return of, say, 12% for 2 years, cash them out after 2 years on the refinance. Well, guess what? We just got ourselves an apartment building using their money as leverage to purchase. And that is a incredible business model. If you have investors who will do debt and want to do debt for a couple years, and it's like 12% return, then you cash them out after you return their money in 12% on a refinance, then great. The challenge there, if you don't go that route, will be the cash out part, because you'll have to increase the value of the property to a degree where you're able to not only return 12% on their money, but then also 100% of the money that they invested. Certainly that's possible, but it's going to be very challenging after 2 years, maybe after 5 years, or after 7 years, you'll be able to do that. So it would be challenging to do it within 2, but holy cow, after 5-7 years, if you raise money for a 250 unit apartment building, you have debt investors, you pay them whatever percent you pay them, and then you do a refinance after 2 years, you return, say, 40%, and then you continue to pay that down all the way to 100% after year 7. Well, after 7 years, you've got an apartment community that you, and if you have any general partners on it, you own without any investors. That's incredible. That would be the way to make the most money in apartment syndication. I don't do that. I don't have a good reason for why I don't do that, other than we started with equity investors and that's what's typical, so we just go with that. I've never presented an opportunity to my investors where they're debt investors. Instead, they're equity investors, and they participate in the upside on the deal in perpetuity, as long as we have the property. We don't buy them out. We do a cash out refinance, or we do a cash out refinance after year 2. Well, they return, using the same scenario as the other example, 40%. We don't do that on all our deals, but we have before. 40%. Then they still maintain the same ownership that they had before.
Oh, but they still get their money back.
Exactly. They still get a chunk of their money back in that scenario. Now, their capital account on the preferred return that we have, technically that's lowered because it's a return, but they still have the same ownership level in the deal.
That makes sense.
Their ownership level has not changed, and it will not change. barring some, esoteric scenarios. So
I'm guessing if they wanted, hey, could I have the rest of my money? Or if for some reason they wanted to cash out their interest, if that's possible, that could be an option for them, or?
it's an illiquid investment, generally speaking.
Okay.
As an equity investor, you're in it until we as a group are out of it.
Okay.
Now, there's exceptions, and that's listed in the legal documents. One is, there is a way out, but it's just generally speaking illiquid. I was just reading through our current private placement memorandum called PPM yesterday, and it's the same as our other ones. Basically, if an investor needs to get out, for example, if they have a sick spouse or some other life circumstance took place, which has happened before with our investors, we're human beings, so we do what we need to help them out.
Yeah.
And in those scenarios, either the general partners would buy them out, or their ownership would be offered up to others in the group, and then they would have an opportunity to buy first right of refusal, their shares. And if we didn't buy it and other people in our group did not buy it who are already invested in the deal, then that investor could go out to their friends or whomever and offer it up. But the general partners must approve of that transaction occurring, because we have to make sure we're good with whoever they're bringing in into the deal. But generally, it's illiquid.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that was a great breakdown. Thank you for that. And as always, if you guys are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you would like more tips to your inbox every week, bestevernewsletter.com is where you can subscribe for the newsletter.